Hello, it's day number 251 of 365 Days of Awesome. Celebrate success through service. And in just a few moments, I'm going to have our guest to talk about how to get your book to become a bestseller. She currently is just wrapping up something right now. So, yes, it is Mistie Layne. And yes, it is this book right here. What Goes Up? And she's in the mix right now of creating a best-selling book. Her story is compelling. She is a dear friend of mine. She's actually one of the next Impactor contestants also. I've gotten to know her recently because of the fact that, you know what, it's really wonderful to hang out with great people that have a message, a movement, a reason to share their life story. And that's exactly what she is doing with this book. She is this story. She is a survivor of some major events that took place. When I read this book, she gave it to me. She actually signed it to me. And, here we go. She gave it to me when we were at the city summit, the city gala together not long ago. And when I read this book, I have to say, it affected me in such a way that I have gone back to her story a number of times and thought, what would I do? What would I do if I had been in her shoes when she was going through this? Now, actually, another one of my dear author friends is here right now, Tamara Knight. I just absolutely adore you, and you know what? Thank you. I have been thinking a lot about our dear Sharon Nichols Ward, a lot about her, a lot. I know that she is very, very involved in what we're doing with Chemo Buddies for Life. For those that don't know, Sharon Nichols Ward was our senior ambassador for Chemo Buddies for Life for a good period of time. Her story is incredible, and at some point in time, I want her story to be immortalized in a book because we need to be able to tell the story of Sharon and her big, huge role in helping to bring Chemo Buddies for Life out to the world, because that's exactly what she did. An amazing, amazing woman, and truly missed. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, I appreciate all of what you're saying right now, Jeremiah. Chemo Buddies for Life. Yes. Woohoo. Because, no one should have to face cancer alone. We are healing through connections within the Buddies Network. And so why did I want to go live and talk about this? It's because, I know a lot of people like Jeremiah Knight that has Patty, who is his editor and an amazing friend of mine. And she's helping him in his book venture to be a best-selling author and to eventually have his book become movie, at least one movie. He's got a series of books, and I think that he will end up with a series of movies also. Jeremiah, amazing stuff. Yes, Patty Godfrey Sadler. Yes, amazing editor. And so not everybody is lucky enough to have an amazing editor like Patty. And yet they have a message and a mission. And I know that Misty is kind of, I think, a hybrid situation, and we'll talk about it. However, she is very much involved in helping her book to become a bestseller. And I thought, she actually reached out to me and she said, okay, I'm really close. She started talking about numbers. And I thought, you know what? That's a service heroes concept, because a lot of my friends out there have books, and many of them are are either self-published or will become self-published. And yes, you're right, Jeremiah. Mistie Layne does rock, and she's a lot of fun too. Wait until we get her to come here because she's at work right now. You know, many of us have day jobs, wink, wink, and she is about to take her lunch. And so we tried to time it right. And so just a few more moments, and then she'll be going live with us. She just recently was one of the guest speakers and she's one of the keynote speakers at the Power of We this last weekend in Atlanta. So maybe we can talk about that. And she's not the only one in the family that's a speaker. Her son, Austin, is a speaker also, and it really ties into the story in the book. And when we talked to Mistie today about how to take a compelling story, and she is a service hero, and she's a service hero for being brave enough to go out there with her story, because it's a pretty powerful one. It's a true life story, where Jeremiah has a fiction, you know, he's a fictional writer, and amazing storyline, and Mistie's story is a true life story, which is a pretty powerful one. And she talks about how you can cope, COPE, and she has a program around cope that she's talking about. And so here she comes. I'm going to bring her on here. Let me switch things around, and here we go. We're bringing on Mistie Layne. Mistie, so good to see you.
Thank you. Sorry about the delay.
No worries. We've been talking, Jeremiah Knight's here. He's been talking with me, and you know, Jeremiah, I just need to say thank you for that. Yes, at some point in time I will be. I believe that absolutely true. Jeremiah Knight is also a book author, and he's writing more in the fantasy world and, you know, the fictional. And he just went live not long ago with his book. And so I'm glad that he's here to kind of talk about it. And when you called last night, or, you know, kind of touched base with me and said, hey, I'm really close. Now, did it actually happen? Are you now bestseller, or where are we at with this whole thing?
Yes, I'm bestseller in 2 categories. I'm ranked 35th in domestic partner abuse, and then I'm ranked, I don't remember, 60 something in another category, but in 2 categories. So yes, I did make bestseller.
Yay!
Yes, thank you all so much for your support.
Yes,
thank you.
Now, okay, so I know that what we're going to be talking about today is about your book, and your book is about your story. And so let's catch people up, if you don't mind, about your story, because it's absolutely compelling.
Sure. So my story is a story of overcoming, I believe, of rebuilding after adversity. That's what I like to focus on, is the after, you know, because a lot of us go through crap. We all have stuff we go through. We all have a story. And to each of us, we all have something that was a hardship in our lives. So that part isn't as relevant. What I believe the message is the fact that despite adversity, despite challenges, despite obstacles, that we can overcome and be a better version of ourselves at the end. I mean, that's really what it's about. But I'll just briefly go into my story for you. It's one that I grew up pretty spoiled brat, you know, pretty much. I was the baby, and pretty much, you know, had my parents, you know. Anyway, I was very competitive. I was an overachiever. I had that perfectionism thing going. I was in beauty pageants since age 4. So I learned very young the power that came with winning. And I starved for it. I starved for the constant validation, the constant pat on the back, the constant being in the spotlight. And what cultivated from that is when things didn't go perfectly, or when I didn't win something, it devastated me, because I held myself to such a high caliber that it was such a huge fall for me. I wasn't like the normal person. Oh, I can win or I can lose. No big deal. It's just a game. No, no, it's not just a game. I have to win at all costs. You know, my kids can tell you. We play board games, and it's like me and my youngest daughter, Amber, we're like this. It's like she's just like me. It's like, no, 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 we have to win, you know. So I went through that for years and not even realizing that that was going to be, you know, a thorn for me later in life. I didn't even see it for what it was. I got married. I had a plan. I wanted to be a surgeon. I had known I wanted to be a surgeon since I was about 13. And I was working my plan to get there. And I got married. I started my family pretty young at 21. I was in college. I married my college sweetheart, had two beautiful daughters. And then, you know, after a 10-year marriage, adultery ripped our family apart, and it left me pretty pissed off, pretty upset. And I went on a search for something. I was looking for loyalty, I think. I was out looking for someone that I could trust, someone that could be there for me no matter what. And I ended up making cocaine my best friend at 31 years old. A mother of two, I had just gotten accepted into medical school. I was smart. I knew better. But see, I wasn't educated about crack cocaine. I knew it was bad, but I'd never been around it. And I really wasn't educated about the power that it could have over someone. And I fell into it. And I mean, I fell into it face first. And it took me down for about a 10-year period off and on. I was in and out of jail. I was in and out of rehab. I was in and out of my kids' lives. We went through a lot of challenges together. And I'm very blessed that they love me today and forgive me. And I'm very blessed to have rebuilt those relationships as well. But within that drug time, got into a really abusive relationship. And I think, you know, that's been one of the hardest things for me to overcome is the domestic abuse, because it really wears us down. It really does a number on us. And that's been one of my hardest challenges. I think I still struggle with it today as far as insecurities and feeling that net worth about yourself. But so I fell into a domestic abuse situation and went in and out of that. And then he went to jail. I was pretty much out there just at my worst, and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I got in a car wreck. So I was attacked, lost control of my car, and somebody died. And so I ended up in prison facing a 40-year sentence. So instead of becoming the surgeon and finishing medical school, I sat in prison and thought my life was over. And I felt guilty, like with every breath I took, because I didn't know, I felt as if I didn't deserve to live. And at that point, Tamara wasn't even sure that I wanted to. And to be honest, I didn't even know how to, because I didn't know how to function without the cocaine. I was in such a deep state of my addiction that it was a part of my every hour of every day. I mean, we weren't separated by anything, you know, not even a shower. I mean, I had to have it constantly. And that's the truth of it. It was that bad. So I ended up writing my book actually while I was sitting in prison waiting for my sentence. I needed to do something to release everything that I had inside of me. And my daughter had written me a letter and said, forgive myself and write everything down. So
here's some of your writing, right? So you actually, in the book, you include some of the actual handwritten pages, because that's what you had to do. Many authors nowadays take it for granted that you have a computer, a laptop, or you can even vocally, you know, say it into something and then have it transcribed for you. You actually took pen to paper and you therapy. Was it like therapy in a way too?
It saved my life. It absolutely was therapy. Writing is what saved my life, because it allowed me that escape to get out all that toxicity that I had bottled up, all the anger. And through the writing, I learned that I had to forgive all those people. And I also learned that I had to forgive myself for everything I had done as well. And it was just very much, and I'll tell you, it took 7 months of writing it by hand on paper. And it's so frustrating. And I'm going to be writing another book, probably a few more, because there's so much I want to say about being incarcerated. It was so frustrating because here I was putting out, you know, my life story, which to me was this huge monumental thing. To everybody else is nothing. It's just a story, right?
Right.
I could not even get a prison guard to make a photocopy. I had to take my one handwritten copy and trust the U.S. Post Office to mail it to my kid's house so that I would have it, because we got raided all the time. I never knew if the guards were going to rip it up or somebody was going to take it. I mean, it was like I had to like literally mail out in good faith and trust my one copy because I couldn't even get a photocopy of the thing. Now, later, after I had mailed my regular copy out, a church lady that had been coming to the facility took it upon herself, and we redid some stuff. And my daughter had gotten her a copy through the mail, and her daughter put it on a, way back then it was a CD, you know, typed it up and got my basic template for me. Her teenage daughter did that for me. But until then, it was like I was at their mercy for everything, even that.
You know, first of all, I just want to thank you for sharing all of this. And I do have a picture of your family. That
Yeah.
yes, and your family has. I don't want to kind of digress from the story right now, but your family has really, truly rallied around you in multiple different ways. And in a moment, we'll even talk about how just even recently, even this last weekend and this morning,
Oh, yeah.
but we're not going to go there quite yet, because I mean, I don't know that I'll go off of that subject if we start there right now, and I don't want to go there quite yet because we want to continue on this story. You in this book, because when I do want here, I am going to share this because yeah, I did grab it.
My daughter, I do have one daughter that's not in that picture. She's
Okay.
busy in school, so she wasn't there.
Okay. So one daughter missing, because you had the two daughters and one son.
Yes.
Okay. When I met you, and I'll never forget it. It was just it's like I knew you forever, and
Yeah.
and yet and yet it hasn't been really. When you look at the calendar, it hasn't been a tremendous amount of time, and yet yes, I feel like I've known you forever. Um, but I got to share in the magic of the moment of you just receiving this box. Why don't you talk about that?
I'm gonna cry, but okay. um, so it took me 12 years, as you know, Tamara, to find the courage and the strength to actually print this book, because I had rebuilt my life. I have re-entered the medical profession, and I have made new associations, and those people don't know that about my past. So it was really hard for me to let them in on that other part of me, because I was in fear of judgment. But what I learned through my mentor, who I love, Jason Cisneros, what he taught me and showed me by example was that we have to be transparent, because it's not even about us anymore. All those feelings of judgment and embarrassment is because I was looking at it about me. We have to realize it's about the message. And once it's about the message, those things don't matter anymore. So once I was able to come out with the book, and it took 12 years, it just so happened I was headed to California to meet up with you and Teresa Snyder and Mikey, and we were doing the city gala, city summit, city gala, and my book had just gotten published, and I had the first copies mailed to my hotel in California. So when I got there, the box was waiting for me. I love that picture. The
I know
box
I
was
do
waiting
too.
for me. I love it. The box was waiting for me at the desk. So none of you guys had arrived yet. So I took it up to the room, because we were rooming together. And so I had a moment by myself, and I opened it, and it was just such an emotional moment for me. And I videoed it, and that video's gotten like, it's gone crazy. And I never expected it, but it was just such a outpour of emotion that I never expected to have. It just a reality of it, I think, and it was a little scary, but it's necessary. Transparency is necessary. I lost you,
That happens every once in
Tamara.
a while. I'm here. Do you see me?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Um, so Teresa, you and I had all signed up, and then you got Mikey to sign up, and so all four of us became, involved in the very first round of the next Impactor, and we were having a blast. And you're out there, you were like, okay, I need to start getting out there and start taking pictures with the book, and we went to the gala. All of us went to the gala. You went to the gala, and then you were kind of like chilling, and we're like, okay, you got to come down here because it's time to take some pictures of that book. And you're like,
Yeah,
I'm casual now, and it's like, doesn't matter. So we started going that night. It was like, there's the Kiss the Monkey crowd, and
yeah.
we've got the four of us, and everybody was just so excited about your book, right?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I wasn't feeling well, and I had gone up. I was there. Chris Salem, one of my business coaches, was there with me, and I just wasn't feeling well. And I had talked with him for a bit, so I just went back on up to the room, and I'd already gotten undressed and started chilling, like you said. And then y'all came in, of course, and drugged me out of bed. Said, "Get here!" So threw my clothes on, so I was a little bit underdressed, but I don't care. I don't care. It's not about that.
No, and you know what? You had an amazing opportunity. There you are with two amazing influencers, and you
Oh
know,
yeah.
yeah, and I will say I love this photo that Mikey took of you. It's just one of my absolute favorites, and
Oh,
yeah, it's so now when I had a chance to read the book. I have to say, I had gotten to know you. I had heard your story through your words. And then I read the book when I went home. And what it did to me was it touched me to the tips of my toes on a cellular level because and when reading the book, it's it's real. It's raw. It's and you kept saying it's raw. You I think you were even using those words and when I got home and I'm reading it, I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, it's real. It's raw." And I love the fact that you didn't have it overly edited, that you didn't overly produce it. And why don't you talk a little bit about that?
well, it was tough because when I wrote the book, I was incarcerated. I had just gotten, I just killed someone in an accident. I was in a very dark place. I was in that state where I was blaming everybody else and I was angry. So the book was written with a dark tone. So when I revisited it 12 years later and decided, okay, we're going to do this, I had to go back and redo the whole thing as far as the tone. Because what I've learned through all of this process is that I'm the one accountable. I'm the one that chose to do that first line of cocaine that day. Nobody forced me to do it. It didn't matter what led up to it. I made that choice. So I shifted from blaming and I took accountability and responsibility. And then my tone was completely different. So that in itself was very, very hard. It took many, many months to do, to go from present tense and now writing it to past tense and filling in the gap of the 12 years. It was tough. But I knew all along, and my first coach, Sam Newton, out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, which I love, which helped me give me my voice, um, it was very raw. It was even more raw than this. And I had to really take into account who would be reading it, the audience. But I wanted to leave that because my whole thing was I did some horrific things, and I'm a smart woman. So I was able to manipulate the system. I mean, hot checks, stolen checks, credit cards. I could do things right in front of you. You wouldn't even know it and never suspect me. So I was digging this huge hole for myself. Well, what would happen is I would feel like I was a monster, like I was horrible. The things I did out there, the things I would do for the drug, the things stole from my family, just the things I did. And then I realized, you know what? When I met some people in prison and heard their stories and that they had done those same things, somehow it made it better for me. It made it okay. I didn't feel like such a monster. I realized it was the drug and it wasn't Mistie. So I know the importance of the honesty aspect of it because especially the young people out there, they need to hear, if you want to go to a party and get high, I want you to be educated on what you're signing up for, the truth, because it's not a game. You don't have three lives. You don't re-up. You don't go get gold coins and get another chance. I mean, it's the real thing. And so I wanted, that was the one thing in the editing and everything I went through, is I held true to my truth and I wasn't going to change it. The abortions, the things I talk about, to the depth that I go with it, it's necessary, because there's going to be a young girl out there one day in the same situation. And, with suicide like it is today, she may go kill herself over that deep regret. But by sharing that she's not alone and other people have been there too, and that you can come back from that, it could, and I pray it saves somebody's life one day. Yeah.
I have no doubt it already possibly has, and you just don't know it yet, because now you have that first box was gone, and then you had to do reorders, and then you now have it where you're doing the bestsellers campaign. And so you've got to think about how many books and manuscripts that have now gotten out there. And I know, because I know some of the people that have also read the book, that there are many that possibly don't always read the books that they're given, but they've read this one. Because
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, there's one in particular, but there's others that, but there's one in particular that it really touched and changed that person. And so you've actually already affected someone's life in a huge way, and you need to feel good about that, because it is said that if one person is touched, and it was said by your son this morning, so let's talk about that. You just recently let's do this. Let's share some good stuff here, that you are out there sharing this story with your book, but also on stages, and you just I want to say perform, but you actually just gave your first keynote speech in Atlanta at the Power of We, correct?
Yes.
How was that? And I'm going to show the crowd, because it was a huge house. How was it to speak to a group of junior high kids with your message? What were you feeling?
Well, I was really nervous beforehand. I was really, really nervous. And I wasn't nervous about me messing up or anything. I was nervous because I had put together, I had arranged my story in a way what I felt like the middle schoolers would understand it most. And I was nervous because I felt I didn't want to miss one thing, because I didn't want them to not get one thing that I had to share, because I'm so passionate about it's important. And so I was really nervous about that. And of course, Lauren was right there with me, and Jason and Don Fawcett was another mentor of mine. I love them all. And, they were just right there with my son was right there with me. And when I got up there and realized the words that needed to be said were going to come regardless. They were just, it didn't matter what was prepared ahead of time. It just kind of happens that way. And I finally realized that. I got up there, and those kids, like, I never expected junior high kids to, like, they were like we could say stuck like Chuck. I mean, they were just like engaged. And I figured they'd be more restless, talkative, disrespectful, but they weren't. These kids, and that was with all speakers, these kids were thirsty to hear, because they're getting to hear the real stuff. Like my son mentioned, Austin, he mentioned the DARE program, which is what they had growing up. It's great. It's a great program. But you're hearing stories, and you don't ever hear the other side. These types of events, there's Austin, these types of events like Power of We, you've got actual people that are getting up there that not only go through these things, but then they rebuild, they overcome. And that's the part that's been left out. These kids need to know it's okay if you screw up. You can come back. It's up to you. It's your choice to make. So I loved it. I loved it. It was like I came off of there and it's like I know now. Like I thought I wanted to do like courses online, this, that, and the other. I came down and I told Chris Salem and Lauren, I said, I want to be a mega speaker. I want
Mm-hmm.
to be I want to speak to people in arenas. I want to get this out to as many people as I can. And that's just it was awesome.
And you know, you have such an amazing story. You have such an amazing presence. You are truly, I mean, look at that picture right there, guys. I mean, does that not just say mega speaker right there? Absolutely. And you shared the stage with your son. You share a story with him. He's very
Yeah.
much, your children are very much a part of the story that you tell. You don't hold back about
No.
that either. And
No.
he's able to come from, it's a full circle. He's able to come from his side of the story. You're able to come with your side of the story. How was it to share this the stage, and what was it like to feel like, okay, wow, I'm the mother of this young man. He's quite spectacular. I even announced today I'm one of his fans, and I even did that in capitals. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I think he's pretty special too. He drives me crazy sometimes. Oh my gosh, but it's okay. First, I just want to real quickly give out a credit to Scott Gain because he was the photographer and he captured the most amazing moments. He's incredible. Um, but
I'm sorry to step on your words. I do want to say something before you start.
mhm,
He is almost 19. He's 18, almost 19, right? Isn't that what he likes to be said? Okay, so we're putting a frame of reference on his age. Okay, so go ahead, Mom.
he'll be 19 on June 5th, the day he leaves for Paris. He'll be 19, so he's grown. Um, so this all came about because the same way that it all came about for me, it started with Lauren Harris's bathrobe moment show. It was the very first interview I've ever done, and I don't even know how I ran across. No, I do. I ran across him through Jason Cisneros. That's how I found Lauren's show, and he and I talked, and I got on his show at the beginning of last summer, and that's kind of when it all started. And the same with Austin. Austin went on Lauren's show because Lauren coaches me, and through the Zoom calls, Austin's in and out, and they've talked and chatted a few times, and he just wanted to get a perspective from him because my son's very opinionated about their generation and things that they feel, from the youth side. And so he did an interview with him, and some of the things Austin said, I think, just really resonated with Lauren, and he decided he wanted to have him on the stage. And my son, let me tell you, that kid, he did not prepare a speech. He didn't write anything down. He wasn't nervous. I mean, here I am with notes, note cards, everything, and it's my story. He's up there talking about perspective and just got up there and nailed it. Just nailed it like it was nothing. So
Mhm.
proud of him, just so proud. And man, you talk about light a fire into this kid. He got bit hard by that. He's all in now. He's definitely all in. He is definitely going forward with this speaking thing.
I'll tell you, when I was listening to him this morning, some of the words out of that mouth, it's like, wow, how old are you again? Because he's so wise. He can say things that you would think that he had a speech writer writing for him, and they just come naturally out. There was only one time, and it was like I even mentioned, wow, that's refreshing that he actually made one little ism of a kind of a teenager sound the whole interview. And it was so cute because Lauren was, as he said, stuck a number of times, like, wow, kind of like, I'm taking it in and I don't know what to say. And Lauren is a wordsmith.
I'm telling you, isn't he though?
Ah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. So
Well, Austin's he's very
go ahead.
deep.
Yeah.
He's just very deep. He's a deep thinker. Um, he loves to debate, and that's something I don't think anybody's really seen that side of him yet. That kid loves to take opposition and turn it around. That's just what he does. He stretches the limits. He thinks out of the box for sure. Um, he it's just so beautiful to watch this happening. And one of the, I was telling Jason this when I came down off the stage. I said later that night, I said one of the best moments. There were two great moments. Well, it was all great, but one of the most memorable moments for me out of that entire event was when I walked down off the stage. My son was there because I was in heels, which I hate. I bore them, by the way. I'm probably going to end up kicking them off one day while I'm up there just because I can't stand them. But he was there to help me down the stairs. And Troy Rogue was there with some. He was the founder of Symposium app. He was there. He's like, I'll help her. And he's like, it's okay. I got her. It's my mom. I got her. So he was like proud of me, And when I came off the stage, I took my mic off and I walked over and was hugging people. And it took a couple of minutes and he just grabbed me and he just hugged me and he was crying. And he said, Mama, I am so proud that you are my mom. And you just, you would have to know our life to understand what that means, because I tossed him around and abandoned him, and he's never had a dad. He's just been this kid just thrown around to his grandpa and grandmas, and you know, for him to be proud of me, that was a big day. It was a big day.
And you talk about that in the book. You're so honest about everything when it comes to all the kids, your life, your marriages, and in particular, I really got a lot in regards to what you're saying about Austin, because there was a lot. It was right in the thick of much of it when he was conceived, when he was born, what happened right afterwards, all of it. And now to fast forward and to have gotten to know you first, read the book, and now witness Austin, I have to say that you have so much to offer because you're showing a full circle. You're showing that your younger years were pretty, I mean, there were some pretty amazing things. I was really surprised about them, but they're pretty much, it was business as usual in a very, very, life happens in the best of families. Okay, so and you shared that. Okay, so you share that, you share the whole beauty pageant thing, then you share, going to school, the choices going through, then the infidelity and all of that. Then you share the the marriages, the ins and outs of all of the choices that you made, and you're real raw about that. And then you share Austin coming into the world and all of that time. Then you share how you ended up writing the book, handwritten, and how that got to that point. And all of that circle shows to that point, right? However, now, knowing you now and having this experience that was just shared this last weekend between the two of you and was streamed on that app, and that people can, see it, and the power of we and all of that, what I am seeing is that you are able to, between the two of you, you are able to show that you can get to be a full circle situation. And like you were saying earlier, that you don't have to let, and you've said this, I've heard you say it a number of times, you don't have to let all your choices at all moments in your life define you. That you always have a chance to redo, I mean, up to a certain point, but while you're still alive, you have that choice. Each day is a choice. And that's what I really absolutely, this book, when we were talking about making it a bestseller, what are the categories that you have yet to become a bestseller, and how does that work?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. I'm so like, publishing that book it was so hard because I know nothing about that world. And man, it's a lot of work. But I know that it is in, I believe, five or maybe 7 different categories: self-help, abuse, addiction, perfectionism, I believe is one, and family relationships, I believe. And it became bestseller in domestic abuse, or partners of domestic abuse, or something. You know what? I don't even know. I'd have to go back and look because I'm so confused. I was trying to look at it this morning and it's kind of confusing. But I know that it's really not even about that. It's about the number of people that hear what's in it.
Right.
If 10 people bought my book and shared it with 100 people, I would be just as happy, because it's about people becoming educated so that they can be transparent and realize their stories are important, their stories matter, and that when people make the choices in life, because we're all faced with them every day, that people learn to respect those moments of choice and give it just a little bit longer before they decide, because that choice is going to alter their path. So that's really, I mean, it's great. Yes, I'm excited. I'm very, very honored and humbled to be able to say it. Not only that I'm an author, which is already like, oh my gosh, I'm an author, but now I get to say the song. But it's about spreading it. And I've already got people that had ordered it on my website ahead of time that have already read it and shared it out. So it's already gone through a whole women's group at one of the churches in another city. And they've all read the same copy, and I'm fine with that, because I'm getting back from them and they're sharing, and that's the most important thing, is that they're sharing it out.
And thank you for sharing that, because what today's show, what I really, and I wanted to really stay true to what I had said, is that there are a lot of people out there that have stories, that have life experiences, that they feel the need, they feel the ache to get that story into a book form. You relate to that. Then how does that make a difference? And there is this unknown world, like you're being very transparent even right now, that you don't quite understand it. However, Jeremiah Knight was saying that anything under 100, because you start out and it's like 6, 7, 8 figures of other books that are in your category sometimes, that you need to get 14 million. That's a few. And that you need to get it to come down to under 100. So that's quite the feat. So, and then you've got the different categories. So what we can do, and I really want people to understand that, yes, getting this message out there is going to make a difference. And we know that. However, if we can get it out there in these different categories, then it's going to make a difference in those different categories. And that is where it might not be that it's a bestseller that's the biggest deal here, guys, but let's look at it this way, the math of it. If a whole church group can take one copy and share it, and then you get that many out there, think how many more groups are going to be sharing those one copies. And you start doing that math, we are going to be changing, hopefully, and educating people to make a difference, because Mistie's story needs to be told. So if you don't mind, if you can put the link in the comments on how they can support you to help make this happen, because you still have, what, 24 hours in some of these categories?
I don't even know. I know, I just looked up the email. Robert Clancy had sent me an email and said I was ranked 35th in domestic partner abuse and 85th in dysfunctional relationships. So that's, and they needed to be under 100. So that's, I'm very grateful for that. And then overall, my book is ranked 32,000 out of 14 million. So I'm honored as a first-time author. I'll take that every day.
Absolutely. But I know that if this story is at all interesting, which I don't know how it can't be, I know that I learned so much, and I don't come from that world, and many of you don't. However, many of you do. And whatever chair you're from, whatever world you're from, this is a story that you will get something from. I certainly did. So let's support Mistie, and let's get her overall ranking to under 100. It can be done. And it's if they buy the audio book, is it
Kindle book.
Kindle? Okay, it's a Kindle, and it's only $2 or less than $3, right? To be able to buy that. $2.99. So less than $3 to be able to get the Kindle version, and it won't take many. Let's just do this. Let's do this, because you know what? This is a book that people need to hear, need to read. They need this message, and we need to get this message out to those. If you heard her story correctly, she wasn't a kid. She was an adult, and this snuck up on her. It can happen to anybody.
31 years old, studying to be a surgeon, educated. Yeah. And I made a poor choice to do my first line of cocaine one day.
So no one is immune, and don't do drugs. That's, know about it. And that's what this book does. It makes, you won't forget the book. You read it, you won't forget it. So thank you for taking time out of your day to share about this and to share your story once again, and to kind of give us an update on what's going on. And then if you can put the comments in, and then once the results are in, if you can then let us know, double back again, so that we can track it, because let's learn from this, guys. Truly, if we can all do this, anybody that has a message, we can do this, and we can do this together. Thank you so very much.
I really want to try to create enough momentum to get it to Ellen or Steve Harvey or someone that has a lot of influence, because I feel like she or even he, that they are people that they would have the means to put those books in the hands of all those school kids, like give them copies, every school kid out there, because that would be a dream for me. That would just be a dream for me, for these kids across the world to get this type of message, whether it be my book or someone else's book with the same message. That's my dream, is that these kids get educated.
Yeah. And you know what, that's my dream too, truly. And I don't think that there's any parent out there, I don't think there's any human that's out there that wants this story to be continued. And you being so real and being willing, because I know that this was, I was there that weekend when it was like, gulp, it's out now. Yeah. I've let the genie out of the bottle, and there's no going back. And right. I remember that weekend. I'll never forget it. And thank you for sharing it with me. And I'm so glad that you did, because you know what? This genie needed to get out of the bottle, and this book needs to get into so many hands. And you need to be in front of so many people, because you have a message to share throughout the world. So thank you, my dear friend, for joining me today. And, is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap this up?
I want to encourage all of you to support the Impactor competition. Vote for any of the impactors you want to, but just support the overall competition, because I think it's a worthy thing that's going on. And I want to say that we need to count our blessings and realize that, like I said to those kids the other day, is when you feel like you're in a bad place and you just can't go anymore, you have two choices. You can wallow in your own pity, or you can look around and find someone that has it a little worse than you, reach out your hand and pull them up. And when you do, you become better from it.
That's a service hero right there. We all have a service hero inside of us, and you are one extraordinaire. So as we close our service hero concept show, day number 251 of 365 days of awesome, celebrate success through service. Thank you, Mistie Layne, for sharing today about your book, what it's like to take a message, put it in a book, and then share it with the world. And in becoming a best-selling author, what does that mean? Yes, you might get a little medallion on your book, but it means much more than that. It means that you are affecting lives. And that is what I wanted to come through today. I wanted people to understand you have a story and you want to be a best-selling author. Why? Ask why. I know Mistie's why. I know it. And I want you to know your why. And if your why is really because you have a message that you need to share in the world, then do it. Do it. Become a best-selling author and help others, impact their lives, because you never know that one person that you impact could actually be the one that's going to make a difference for so many others. So
Right.
thank you.
You don't get rich selling books. I'll tell you that now. A lot of
Yeah,
I've been accused, or someone brought up to me once, well, as a Christian, aren't you monetizing killing somebody? No, it's not about. I'm nowhere even close to even making my money back. It's not about monetizing killing someone. It's about educating others so no one else has to die. That's what it's
exactly.
about.
Exactly. And I'm glad you made that point strong because of the fact that, in truth, if you want to go out there and change the world, yes, at some point in time, you may actually make a dime, but most likely you're going to be spending all of your dimes to do it. But it's a calling. And all of us that are involved in that, we are feeling called. And so, if anybody is thinking that anybody that is involved with any of this stuff is getting rich off of it, think again, because the reality of it is that you need to think again.
It's a different kind of richness. It's a different kind of wealth.
Exactly. Exactly. Because exactly. Your soul will be fed. But, and, not but, however, and you will change lives. I can tell you that I am witnessing that on a daily basis. And if you can save a life, your life has been well served. And if you can save many lives, that is priceless. Yeah, I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
brought that up. Thank you. All
Thank you,
right, my
Tamara.
dear. Always wonderful. I love you.
I love you. You're awesome. Thank you.
You are too.
Bye, you
Bye.
guys.